Hey, everybody, it's Bridgett Battles, Executive Present Strategist and CEO of the Bridgett Battles Experience. And let me tell you, I have a good show for you tonight. So before I bring on my guest, I need to go ahead and put this in the atmosphere. Pretty soon, y'all are going to see me coming behind some closed doors, okay? Somebody going to be behind stage saying lights, camera, action. Watch what I tell you. It's coming very soon. We're going to a full-fledged talk show. And trust me, anything I put my mind to do, I will accomplish it. All right, so I'm so glad to be back with you tonight. And I have a very special guest tonight. And we have a dynamic conversation for tonight. Let me tell you, first of all, if you've never heard him preach, I dare you to go look him up on Love Fellowship Tabernacle's page. When I tell you this man preaches, oh my God, and he's educated. He's an all-around good guy and a businessman, and he's also my brother. So please help me welcome Eric Langston, author of The Diary of a Single Dad. Did I do all right? Did I do all right, brother?
You did it. You did it. I got it. We got it.
Yeah. So first of all, welcome. And so if I'm ever in the mood for a co-host, for a live event, promise me you're going to co-host with me, okay?
I'm always going to do it. I do it at school. I do that, not even church. Church is like what we do, but we do this outside of church. So I'm all for it.
Yeah,
let's go to Grammys together.
Having like a big live event, so to really have a live audience for Coffee with Bridgett. And so for those of you who are new to joining me, Coffee with Bridgett is where I have discussions with other entrepreneurs or creatives. And we discuss and unpack their journey while giving you some tools and tactics and tips to help you as you continue to grow throughout whatever path that you're in. So tonight, I'm very excited to talk to Eric about his book. And I got it about a week and a half ago. So I've had a chance to kind of go through it a little bit and, highlight some different things that I wanted to talk about tonight. But first thing I want to know, Eric, because I want to understand from you, what was the importance of you really writing a book? What was the importance behind that?
So, I have a different experience than most, particularly growing up in a family of color. Typically, historically, with Black and brown families, the father, if they are not married, potentially is not as active. And I went the different route. I didn't have children before I was married. I had children. And then unfortunately, I went through a divorce. And I wanted to take an opportunity to not really talk about or tell all about the divorce, but really take it as an opportunity to minister to fathers who have the ability to still be active, present, and engaged. So that's one of the things that I really push. So I decided to write the book to really identify that, particularly in Black and brown communities, that there are fathers that remain present, active, and engaged in their children's lives, even after failed relationships.
So everybody, if you're watching this, please invite a father, invite a brother, invite somebody to watch this conversation. Make sure you like, share, and comment, because we'll definitely be engaging in your comments. And so, Eric, I like the perspective that you come from, of why it was so important for you to write this book. So now let's unpack, your upbringing. So because I know you on a little bit of a personal level, I know that you are a twin. But from our audience who does not know you, tell us a little bit about who you are now and the man that you have become.
So I'm from North Philly, and like Bridget said, I am a twin. My mother and my father were not married, but of course, my sister and I came out of that relationship. My mother had 8 children in total, and my father just had my sister and I. And after our conception, we were actually taken from the hospital and raised by my father. Luckily, my other 6 siblings, my half siblings, they actually went into foster care because my mother was not able to take care of them for various reasons. One being she was addicted to drugs. So she was unstable, so she couldn't do it. So my dad knew that was the case, so he took me and my sister. My dad was not really a church-going guy, though, but he was raised that way, but he wasn't a church-going guy. But my family were. So I come from a strong family of women who were in church. So they kept me and my sister in church, and they really stressed the importance of education. So education was like paramount in my house. So doesn't matter if you wanted to be a basketball player, if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, if you wanted to be a lawyer, whatever you wanted to be, you had to go to school to make it happen. So they pushed education, and I thrived even in the middle of North Philadelphia. Went on to college and went on to get 2 master's degrees. And
stop right there. Somebody put this in the comment. Hey, Erica, because I was going to bring that up yet. He got not 1 master's degree, but 2 master's degrees. Okay. 2. That's a huge accomplishment. All right,
Mhm.
like it's a struggle nowadays for people to complete school, given everything that's happening in the world. But to have
Mhm.
two, you need to be celebrated. So now let's fast forward to the man that you are today.
Mhm.
The man that you are today, you're a principal at a school. By the way, I'm doing Black Girls Rock at your school. Okay, we just
Now I'm going to tell you. Now we've lifted those real restrictions and the mask mandates. I wish we would have done it for Women's History Month, but we got to do it before the end of the school. The
yeah, I'm
kids
coming
are.
to yeah,
We got to do it.
yeah. Just let me know I'm coming to your school. So the man that you are today, so you're a principal, and you have these two beautiful daughters. And you are what we call an itinerant preacher now. But I love the fact that you are not one-sided. There are so many different elements of who Eric is. So let's break down the different elements of Eric before we get into the book. So let's talk about, the professional side as being a principal, because I know how much you have a love for helping our Black and Brown children. And, you just stated about how education was so important to you. So let's talk about Eric the principal. Tell us a little bit about Eric the principal. Is he strict? Does he bring the letter of the law? Tell us a little bit about Eric the principal.
So Eric, the principal, I've been blessed to start off early. So I'm in my 5th year as being the principal. So I started when I was 27, 28. So I was very young. And I also went through multi-tiered leadership within the building. So I started as a dean of students at my school, and then I matriculated to an assistant principal of school culture. And now I'm in my 5th year of being the principal. I am one that I am letter of the law. I don't play games. However, I love the students. So what happens is you cannot educate a child if you don't have relationship with them. And one of the first things that you have to do before I can teach you math or English language arts or Spanish, the student must know that you have an intrinsic belief that they can succeed. And not just in academia, but they can succeed as young adults in a crazy world. So I have had the ability to love them and believe in them. And because of that, they can take the discipline and they can take the rules because they know ultimately I'm only doing something to help them. And families also respond to me and love me because I hold the bar high. But I also love the students and I love our families. So there's like 3 things that I always say when I'm in my role. It's my job as the principal to make them feel appreciated, supported, and also challenged. So I use that mantra for all, whether it is students, families, staff. My goal as the leader of that building is to appreciate them, support them, but also to challenge them to be better, whether that's in their behavior, whether that's in their academics. And sometimes the conversation is not what they want to hear, but it's something that's necessary.
So now let's go to another element of, let's talk about Eric the preacher.
Mhm.
Because for those of us who work in the professional setting, and also we carry God's word and we are Bible believers and we live this word, how are you able to infuse your spirituality into your day-to-day operations as the principal without crossing without crossing lines? And
Mhm.
also now, because I have a DEI background, so
Mhm.
you have to be culturally inclusive, but also at the same token, certain things, we can't compromise.
Mhm.
So talk to us a little bit about how you do that.
So I'm glad you said that. So DEI, and if you guys don't know what that is diversity, equity, and
Equity and
inclusion.
inclusion. Yeah.
And basically, that's changed the scope of how we lead
Mm-hmm.
because you have to be inclusive of everything and everybody. And a lot of times that may go against what we personally believe. Um, it has always been my prayer and desire that while I'm leading, that the Bible says, let your works so shine that men may see your good works and glorify the Father. I never tell people that I'm a preacher,
Mm-hmm.
but all of my students and families know. I'll walk into a class sometimes and they're like looking at me on YouTube, and it's sometimes a little weird and awkward, but my works. So
The
I'm
kids
really
looking at you on YouTube.
yeah. So they'll be on the computer and they'll be like, "Oh, I saw you preaching the other day, or that was a good sermon." So they'll say all that, especially because my Instagram, since I've started the book and released the book rather, my marketing team told me that I had to make my social media public. So I had to clean my page up and just
That part right there. Anybody on my live right now, if you are a business owner, entrepreneur, or creative, if your social media is private, you have to be very strategic, because your business won't expand and you won't grow. And the key to that is you don't put all your personal business out there. You keep it strictly the business. So open up your pages. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Open up your pages. So before stories was a really thing, I had like 2,000 posts on my Instagram, and my team was like, "Get that off your page." So I cleaned it up. So all you see on my page now is the book, me being a principal, and preaching and being a dad. That's all my life in a nutshell. So essentially, I just pray for God to give me direction. And sometimes we talk about, Lord, give me the tongue of the learned. And I think sometimes we misinterpret that.
Get this Bible in here. Come on here, Pastor.
We have used that like out of context because people say it in church, but really having the tongue of the learned is sitting at places where you may not qualify for, or leading where you may not qualify, and you need God to really give you the tongue of the learned. So I've been able to lead with my faith, but not put it in people's face. So my personal prayer time and my personal time to create all these modes of operation and just create the scope and sequence of how my building should run is all God inspired. But when I walk into that building, I am Mr. Langston from the time I walk in to the time I walk out. Now some of my kids sometimes call me Pastor Langston because they just know. So, but I am Mr. Langston, and I don't mix them, but I lead with my faith. And when you lead like that, you don't have to be a Bible toting person or wearing a collar to work. I can wear Yeezys and a sweatshirt, or I can wear a suit and they still respect me for who I am, because I've put the time in. And I think that's the thing. When you are in corporate America and you are in the marketplace, you've got to put the time in and have the tongue of the learned.
That's good. You're right. You have to put the time in. And I think one of the key elements about being a leader is that as a leader, you are accountable for what you say and what you do and how you show up. And so we have to be so cautious about the way that we show up and the way that we handle people. You have to be careful how you handle people in a corporate setting as well as in the body of Christ. And I think sometimes where we mess up is that people are in positions that they don't necessarily qualify for. But even if you aren't qualified for it, you can be taught. But when you can't be teachable, that's a problem.
That is. And I always say, even when I'm hiring, whether it's a teacher or an assistant principal or any type of staff member, I always say that it is not, I can work with people that have the will. I can teach you skill set, but I can't teach you will. And if you don't have the will to learn and the will to be submitted and learn a craft and learn a trade, then you really won't be successful. But if you have the will to do it, God and whoever's training you can give you the strategies to learn the skill.
Yes. So now fast forward, you find out that you're having a daughter, your first daughter, Aria. Take us to how you felt knowing you were going to be a father.
So I was really, when I found out that I was having a child, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I wasn't ready yet. I said, oh God, I'm about to have a baby. But I immediately got happy about it because I knew that I had a good father. And I couldn't speak for my mother, but I could 100% speak for my dad. And I knew that there were things that I know that my dad wished he could have done for me that he could not have. And God blessed me before having a child to be in a total different situation than my father was. So I knew not only was I going to be able to provide for them, but provide a better life for them. I also knew that I could not be less than what my father was to me. So I was really excited. I was nervous, but I
Mhm.
was excited about it because I knew that I had a chance to now really work on and develop someone else.
Mhm.
Knowing that now I'm responsible. See, when I was young, I was like, oh, I'm in college and I'm doing my own thing. I was responsible for my own self before I got married. And now with a child, you are no longer, your life is not your own. And I was excited to learn, but I also knew that I had the tools, but I knew that I didn't know how to use them because they were not at play. But ultimately, I was really excited that I was going to have an opportunity to be a dad. And I already knew for some reason, girls run in my family rampant, boys don't really run. So
Mhm.
I was like, when I found out I was having a baby, I was like, it's a girl, it's a girl. Um,
Mhm.
and when we found out it was a girl, I was like, I told you, it's a girl.
Mhm.
So I was excited about that as well because girls have a different relationship with their fathers. It's just a fact. I don't have a son, so I can't speak to that relationship, but I can speak to the fact that there's a special bond between a girl and her daddy.
Mhm. So then fast forward. So now you having another daughter.
Mhm.
So you're going to be fruitful and multiply. So so what is that feeling like to now? Not only do you have one beautiful daughter, one beautiful bundle of joy, now you're getting a chance to live this again the second time.
Mhm. So at first I was like, Lord, how am I going to split my time?
Mhm.
Because I spent a lot of time with Aria. Me and Aria spent a lot of time together because before Amina was conceived, um, my ex-wife was um, she was sick, and
Mhm.
because of that, I spent a lot of time with Aria alone.
Mhm.
Um, and we just created a bond. So when I found out it was going to be two of them, I said, "Well, Lord, first of all, I need another job because this is really expensive." But once again, I was happy to have the opportunity to be a father again. And because I work in education, I see a lot of students who had who don't have the access. And when I was growing up, I didn't really have the access. So I just felt blessed that I was able to be in a position where I could successfully and thoroughly care for them and provide a better experience for them just in life.
So fast forward, you've written a book,
Hmm.
and now you've written a book, and the book is out. I know when I wrote my book, the writing process and everything, and you go through all of that and you start to get excited. And I went through different lulls. Well, one day I was excited, the other day I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Then the next thing you're like, oh my God, is anybody gonna buy it? Then you get all hyped and you're like, yeah, people gonna buy it, people gonna buy it, people gonna buy it. And then you go through all these different emotions. I know I did. Did you go through the emotional roller coaster?
Absolutely. I I experienced many triggers during the process of completing the book
Mm-hmm.
because my goal is to minister to fathers, and in order to do that you have to be 100% open and transparent. And I was not trying to put out any type of content that was just very surface. I wanted to just open up my life, so that somebody could be helped. With
Mm-hmm.
that being said, it took me through a lot of triggers, particularly my childhood with like the lack of my mother's presence and reliving that again. It did take me on ups and downs. I got to some chapters, I was talking about the girls, and I'm just like, yeah, 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 let's do this, let's do that. And then I had some other chapters, I'm like, whoo, let me calm down and just step back for a second and let's revisit this tomorrow, because it was a lot of up and down. So I totally agree. It was definitely a roller coaster.
And so now you get your first printed copy.
Mhm.
And I know when I got my first printed copy, like I just started bawling. Like I just started crying. I did because my book went to print the same week my father's funeral was. So I went to bawling, the
Mhm.
bawling. You got your first copy in hand. What did that feel like?
So when the publisher called me, they said, "Hey, we're sending your original copy, spiral bound. We're
Mhm.
sending it. Go pick it up, read it. If there's any edits in it, mark the number, page number, send it back to us before it goes to print. So I had the girls with me, and I picked it up, and they couldn't find it at first. So I was like, here we go. So they couldn't find it, and when I got it, I started crying. I literally, when I opened up the when I opened up the bag, I started crying, because a lot of times and you can attest to this, a lot of times when we're raised in church or we are in church, sometimes we over spiritualize things, and we also sometimes speak out of turn. And as much as I've preached it and much as I've seen things happen, I have finally saw like vision into manifestation. So for me, it was like, going to get a car is not manifestation. Not getting a house is not manifestation for me, because you got the good credit for that. You can do that. If you have a good job, you can go buy what you want to buy. But this was like manifestation for me. So when I saw the copy, and I was like, that's really me on that page, and this is my life, I did cry. I didn't want the girls to ask me no questions, so I stood in the Staples for a couple of minutes and got myself together, and then I went out. But I just saw prophecy fulfilled, and then that was like, wow, like I really did it. Because then I started thinking about all the times that I set out to do something and I didn't finish it. And I finally finished it. So, one of the things that I had been praying the whole process of this book is, Lord, give me the spirit of a finisher. And I was like, I got to finish this, because I started this book 5 years ago, and it originally was a message that I had preached that I was turning into a book, but clearly it wasn't the timing for it yet. So I shifted it. The original book was supposed to be The Diary of a Winner, which was based off of a message that I preached, but it wasn't time. So I wrote a chapter, and then I never got back to it. And then a year and a half ago, the Lord said, write the book. I said, what am I going to talk about? I don't want to just I want to do something different. So I finally saw like prophecy fulfilled. And this is one of the first times I can say that I started a project like independently and went all the way through the process. So it was just like an idea for me that I can always, now at this point, like you said, when we started, whatever you put your mind to do, you do it. And this was like the confirmation that I really can do whatever I want to do.
Yeah. And I want to say to anybody that's watching us that this process, whether or not you're writing a book or whatever, no, it's not easy, because, it comes with a lot of things that and a lot of things you don't know, but you got to stay the course. And like you said, be the spirit of a finisher. But once you accomplish one thing, you become so not just confident in God, but confident in yourself, that this is where you're supposed to be. And so I've adopted that mentality when I'm doing certain things and going certain places. Like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be the vice president of the National Association of Asians, and I'm not Asian, but I'm supposed to be here. And so I really feel like that's important. And so when we talk about your book, and you said you didn't finish it because you were supposed to do it at this time. And now that you have done it, I think that it also gets you into a place of being okay to talk about your scars. And so I'll use myself for an example, because I want you to tie this up as it relates to you. So my book is called Beauty and Her Battle. And so people would always think I was really specifically talking about a fashion battle, which I was, because fashion was my way of escape. But really, I was fighting a battle internally. And so I was able to, to really deal with my own inner battles by writing about fashion. And so the book became more of a life to me than I ever thought that it would. So now you write about the diary of a single dad. Never knew you were going to be a single dad. And so now you're at this becomes your life. So let's talk about, your life as this single dad, not just your commitment, because we see your commitment, but also understanding what you have to do on a consistent basis. So talk to us about that. Like, being a single dad, like, what does that look like?
I think that And me and their mother, we share custody, so we are able to equally be in their lives, but it's different because when they were born, I was still married. So it is a different perspective, it's a different outlook, it is a different experience. And for me, even the big piggyback on what you said, outside of just giving tools and strategies for fathers to be successful, I wrote this book, and this book is an indicator that like I have really been delivered from those scars, and delivered from the issues as a child, not just the last 5 or 6 years of my life, but it was a sign that now I'm in a place where I can actually talk about and also help people. So now the concept for me is that I do everything with the intention of honoring family first and putting my daughters first. One thing that I have learned in the church world is that there has to be a balance as it relates to being a father, being a pastor, being a principal. Nothing comes before my girls. So I don't take a preaching engagement if I can't. If it's a school night and I'm not taking them and I can't find nobody to watch them and it's my week, I'm not going. Or being strategic about how I spend time, because what I don't want my girls to do, because God has blessed me to be able to preach and go all over the place. I don't want them to grow up and hate church. I don't want them to grow up and envy church because they felt like the church took their dad. And I've seen that a lot. So I made a commitment that once I figured out that we were not going to stay together, but I also had a commitment. And in the book, I talk about fatherhood, motherhood is not just an act, but it is a commitment. And before you can commit to anything else, you got to commit to them first. So I've committed to being their priority and they being my priority. And one of the things that I've coined since I've released the book is that, being a man did not make me a father, but being a father made me a man. And I think that they caused me to grow up. I was married, but I was not grown up yet. It was once I had children, and I understood that assignment that I developed as a man.
So you talk about the soil in the book. You talked about the soil, and you talk about your relationship with your mom. So when you relate the soil to how you were brought up and how you were reared, talk to us about what kind of soil is necessary now for you to raise your girls the right way.
So in that chapter, it talks about soil matters. And it really talks about the idea that it doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter your social economic status. It doesn't matter your knowledge of who God is or who he is not. How you are raised. I use that terminology soil in terms of where you come from, like where your roots come from. And one thing that I know is that, soil mattered, like church mattered in my house. It wasn't an option to go to church when we was younger. It wasn't an option to pray. It wasn't an option to go to school. It wasn't an option to go to college. It wasn't an option. And even though it wasn't an option, we didn't have many options either at the same time. So I think for me as a father, it matters. Every aspect of my children's life matter. Where they go to school, where they worship, what they have access to, what they wear, what they're allowed to participate in, what they can watch on their iPads and what they can't. Everything, because as an educator, I also see when kids are byproducts of bad soil. It doesn't make them bad children, but it means that they don't have the right resources to be able to maneuver in the soil that they're in. And my job to my daughters is not just to give them the greatest labels and the biggest house and the nicest.
Because they like Gucci now.
They like Gucci. Now, my girls do like Gucci, and they will be able to get that. However, The goal is that outside of the Gucci, outside
Mhm,
of all of those things, they need to have tools and resources to be great people.
mhm, mhm.
And I don't want to I'm not just trying to raise a praise team and an evangelist so they can help me run my church. I'm
Or a
just trying
prima
to
donna.
create, well, right. Yeah, I'm trying to create agents of change that will be world changers. And I'm trying to create a legacy for them. So their soil matters now because it will ultimately become their legacy.
Yeah. So then let's talk about how I know that, you know, those of us who are strong in who we are,
Hmm.
strong in our faith, but also strong as individuals.
Hmm.
Every day is not roses.
It's
Every
not.
day is not great. We can package it to appear great, but every day is not great. We can position ourselves to have faith and to think positively, put scripture on it, and to really walk out what we know that God's going to work out. But there are times when all hell breaks loose. There
Hmm.
are times when, like sometimes I'm asking myself, Bridgett, why did you commit yourself to all these different things?
Hmm.
But then I realized, like, this is a part of this is who I am. Like
Hmm.
the work that I do, I have become this work. And
Hmm.
so it's so important to me. So my passion has to be in action.
Hmm.
So my question to you is that what does it look like for you and for other single fathers when the day is not good? Or you got a bad report at school, you don't
Hmm.
have to come home, fix dinner, and you ain't got no more waffles or breakfast in the morning, and you got to do their hair. Like, I'm just making up stuff. But what does it look like? And then how do you overcome those things?
Hmm. Um, when you're connected and when your kids are in the right soil, they can always pick up on when something's wrong.
Mm-hmm,
Now, when they're wrong, they
mm-hmm.
know how to decrease because they want to, like, for instance, Ari got a little bad report in school today.
Oh,
Um,
did she? Oh, I was in a spirit.
someone told me this. She got a little bad report in school today, and she totally pulled back.
Mhm,
But then there's that time she's a child, so that thing that comes with that, right? But
mhm,
then there's times where daddy's having a bad day,
mhm,
and I have to be strategic about not projecting what I'm feeling on them,
mhm.
whether it is from work, whether it's from church, whether it's from anywhere. And I'm like, and they are bystanders of that.
Mhm,
So I have become very strategic about reminding myself of the fact that even when I am vulnerable, I
mhm,
am still assigned to protect them. And I
mhm.
think that's what happens. We see that in church, we see that in corporate America. Sometimes when leaders are vulnerable, they forget to also protect. And
Yeah.
then they launch out, they project, and they make their issues your issues. So I've learned how to step back and
Mhm.
remember that even when I'm mad and want to go off, I still have an obligation to protect them, even if protecting them means protecting them from my own emotions
Oh,
and my
wow.
own feelings at that time,
Mhm,
especially if it has nothing to do with them. There's many times I have um, done the daddy thing and put them in the bed and then sat on my couch and was like, I don't know,
mhm.
or felt the nature of being overwhelmed, um, and not be able to sleep or cry because I'm like, I don't know, like I didn't sign up for this.
Mhm.
I say sign up for this, it has nothing to do with them, but just the reality of where they are, the reality of our lives is not what we signed up for.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's overwhelming. And when it first happened with the girls, I struggled a lot because they could see the weight on my face. So it was always like, Daddy, okay? Or I'm going to sleep with you tonight because you're sad and something like that. So I've learned how to protect them from that so that they can enjoy being a kid.
So, what was your favorite chapter in the book to write?
So I think my favorite chapter in the book to write um was probably, see, I like the whole book. The first
Mhm,
5 chapters of the book really just talks about me as a
mhm,
child and coming into adulthood. The last 5 chapters of the book really deal with me being a father. And I
mhm.
think um I would have a coin toss between expressing vulnerability and the best part of fatherhood.
Okay.
And the reason why I say both of those is because as men in general, it doesn't matter color, age, or creed, we are not vulnerable and we don't want to share our emotions. And I would say that I
Well,
have.
why? Why? What is that thing that men don't want to share their emotions? What is that?
I really think that it's a social construction, meaning that like society has just normed that that is a thing. So my dad never told me that I shouldn't be emotional. My grandmother never told. When I go back, no one ever told me that being emotional or vulnerable was wrong. But society sets up the fact that you should not. It doesn't look good for the man to be vulnerable. But one of the things that I have learned, the girls have taught me the best, is to be vulnerable. Um, they're they're 6 and 4,
Mhm.
and their feelings are always hurt about something. Whether it's you can't have no candy or you can't take that toy to school. And before I had them, I was very just like cutthroat, like whatever, like
Mhm.
get over it. Like get like that's your feeling. I got it. I'm sorry you feel that way and get over it. And that was a really not a great way to be.
Mhm.
But they have, in addition to being an educator, they've really challenged me to like tap into what's bothering you. So what is it? Why are you not feeling good today, Aria? I mean, what's going on with you today? Like how did that make you feel? And sometimes we don't like to ask those questions, or you know when you did that, how did that make this person feel? Or how did that make you feel when they did that to you? It forces you to be connected. And as a father, the goal was to make sure that I connect with them so that they do not have an emotional, a present father, uh, but a emotional less father. So it's different because of your presence being there, but you can be there and still not be emotionally connected. And my goal to be vulnerable was to really connect with them emotionally so that they would never be able to get older, get in a relationship, and not be able to be validated in their feelings.
So let's talk about the two girls. So for my viewers who don't know Eric's daughters, they are Aria and Amina. So talk to us a little bit about Aria.
So Arya is the dominant one.
Mhm.
She is 6 years old. She is very outspoken. She's extremely smart. Arya is really, really smart. Um, she was reading before she ever got into school. She's just really highly educated, highly motivated. She sketches, so she'll draw dresses. And the other day she said, "Hey, I just sketched you a suit, so you can get your suit made." I said, "All right." Well, she knows my favorite color is blue, so she sketched me a blue suit.
Mhm.
Um, Aria is like connected to me. So, like you said, I'm a twin, and me and my twin, we have those spidey senses with twins. But Aria also can wake up and be like, "Are you okay today?" And I will physically be perfectly fine.
Mhm.
But she'll tap into me. Um, Amina is the silent storm because Amina is
Wait, she's a silent storm.
she's a
Now, how
silent
is
storm.
Amina? How is Amina?
Amina's 4. She'll be
Okay.
5 in August.
Okay.
Um, Amina's a silent storm because Amina um, likes the fact that she's small and cute and she got the little cute voice. So she uses it to her advantage. And because Arya is more outspoken than Amina, Amina tries it a little bit more than Arya. So Amina a little more sneakier than
Okay.
Arya is. Arya will do it and she did it. Amina will do it and be like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Like
Okay.
but Amina will, if Amina did not do anything wrong, she will absolutely tell on whoever did something wrong.
Okay.
But Amina is more like a cuddly, she just wants that attention. She's got that younger sister syndrome. She just wants that attention, and she wants to be babied by everybody. And my goal is to also just make them friends, because at the end of the day, the worst thing is to live in a house and don't feel like you're friends with your siblings.
Mhm.
And I want them to grow. They're going to be in school together next year. I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out. But they will be in school together next year. But they're a joy. You know, you saw the video the other week. Amina loves Gucci. We were in the Gucci store the other day, 2 weeks ago, maybe near Valentine's Day, and Aria was in the Gucci store yelling, "Where are the fanny packs?" And it's like, you're not getting a Gucci fanny pack today. So once they get a little older and the hair starts coming into play, and I'm gonna need another job.
Yeah, you're gonna need another job before they get old. You're gonna need another job this year. So let's talk about now, and so for those of you have questions for Eric, put the questions in the comments. I'll ask Eric. So Eric, let's talk about now, you've added an author to your titles now. So now, you have all these different elements. Now, to any single father that is watching us now, what advice do you give to them? Single fathers who are now juggling different things because they don't want to be perceived as a failure. And they don't want to feel like they've letting their child down. Like, what advice would you give to them? That's number one. Number two is, as someone who's divorced also, like, I'm dating again. All right. I just don't post it, but like, I'm dating, I'm enjoying life. Okay. So whenever you decide to date or, whatever your next steps are, how do you plan to incorporate Amina and Aria into that?
So the first thing is, I would say, two things for fathers. One thing is to stay committed. Like, never let external factors change your commitment to your child. Even if the mother is giving you a hard way to go, taking you through court or whatever, making it difficult, stay committed. Because the children will notice the commitment. Even if there's a delay or there's an issue with getting to them sometimes, because of adults, stay committed. Never give up, even when it's hard. The second thing I will say is, know how to rely on your village. Sometimes with men, another part of vulnerability is asking for help. And sometimes we don't want to ask for help. Why? I don't know. But I've learned how to really rely on my village. So, I know how to dress my girls. I can do everything. I can't braid hair. I can put the beads on after the hair is braided, but I can't do that.
But you can do a ponytail, all right?
You can do the ponytail.
You can do the slick
edges. I can do the edges. I got the edge brushes and all that. I got that.
Okay.
When it comes to the braids, I can't do that.
Okay.
And I didn't want to. I knew how to, like. I'm never gonna. And you are all about this, Bridgett. But like, I have a brand. And me and my girls, we will never be outside looking a certain crazy way, because I have a brand that they carry too. And you'll never catch us slipping. So we can't. I don't care if I'm at the supermarket. There's certain things we just not gonna do. And when I figured that out, I was like, well, I can't do this, but I got to find somebody to do it. So I started reaching out and pulling on my village to be like, hey, my door, and then being proactive and planning. So I'm like, okay, this is not my weekend, but their hair may not be done next weekend. So let me put in place already next week them to get an appointment so that I'm ready and available to get them what they need. So I do think that number one, stay committed. Number two, pull on your village. As it relates to dating, I would say that when you are potentially going to step into a situation where there is a blended family, can't nobody be around my kids if they don't love my kids like I love them. Like, that's just the whole. If you can't love my kids like they are your kids, then we don't really have a conversation, because they are me. If you can't love me and don't love my seed, so a prerequisite for that is, yes, love in terms of attraction goes that way with you and the person, but it also has to go to your child. And if they don't have the same energy for your child or your children, they are not the people, because then that's when you get into the situation of families and kids beginning to envy relationships and act out and do all those types of things. I need them to be safe. And at that point, dating, dating for me looks like you dating me and my kids. It's not, you know, you if you dated me, you dating me and my kids. You're not just trying to date me when my kid's not here. So you just no. You gotta date me and my kids, three of us. So if you're gonna date me, you dating Arya and Amina.
You date Arya and Amina.
And vice versa, right? Like if they have a child, I also am dating them and their child.
So but then I like that, and I so agree with that. So then you also have to, as that father, okay? I know as a kid, and I'm not saying you do this, but as a kid, my mama used to be like, whatever going in this house, stay in this house, okay? Mm-hmm. So then when it comes to, bringing other people into your circle, making sure they are comfortable, but also knowing where the boundaries are, I think is so important, Granted, they are the priority, but, making sure they're comfortable.
You got to slow walk it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slow walk it. My girls tell everything. So I'm not doing nothing that I don't want everybody to know.
Okay.
My girls are gonna tell it just comes out. It doesn't matter if we're at church. It doesn't matter if we are at the mall. Prime example, we can be in the mall. And people are sometimes enamored when I'm by myself with the girls. Like it's uncommon. So people are always just staring when we're out together. If I go out to eat and it's just us three, or when wherever, people are always staring, and the girls will say all types of obnoxious things. And 9 times out of 10 it's true, but it's like they know it, and they'll say, like, we were in Target one time, and this older white lady was like, your girls are beautiful. And I remember when my ex-husband used to like take my girls out like this, da 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 da. And one of them said, yeah, because my mommy and my daddy, they are divorced. And I was like, thanks. They just share too much information. And I said that to say, essentially, I don't put them in a position where they shouldn't feel comfortable to share. But I am very from the element what goes on in this house stays in this house. I do understand that they are 4 and 6, so that they don't understand what that means. So right now, whatever they see is public knowledge because they just say everything.
So then this leads me to my next question. So now when it came to you being as a single father, talking to your kids about the divorce, like I can imagine that was hard.
It was.
Yeah, I didn't get free until I was able to say that I was divorced. It took me a minute to say that. Anytime anybody would ask me about my ex, this was my favorite line. He would love to hear from you. That was so I would never accept it, And for number one, I was lying, saying that he would love to hear because I had no idea if he wanted to talk to them. So number one, I was lying. Number two is that it's because I was ashamed and embarrassed. And the moment that I took control of it, and I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with myself. Like, you do all these great, grand, and wonderful things out in the world. You empowering people, you dressing people, you speaking, you do all these different things. But when it comes to you showing up as your authentic self for yourself, it was that one thing that held me captive. And so the moment that I got free from that, like the floodgates opened up. So now, how did you have that discussion with the girls, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so my girls are very smart and intuitive, so they had a lot of questions. And their mother and I were very strategic in saying, mommy loves you, daddy loves you. We're friends, but we are just going to, move on with our lives. And we're not going to change in terms of how we love you and care for you. We're just going to do it separately. And luckily, because of consistency, it has not become a thing for them. So the transition, thank God, was easy for them because we haven't changed our approach to them. And what I will say to single fathers or single mothers, it is important to find a way to work with your ex, whether it is from a divorce, when children are involved. It is important to prefer the child. And I often say, we don't have to love each other, but we have to respect each other enough and love them enough. And I always say this is something that I always say, I cannot And you cannot, whoever you are listening, you cannot love your children and hate their parent.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Mhm.
Um, I can't love them and despise their mother,
Right.
and vice versa, because they are a direct implication of their mother, and vice versa. And any mature parent that has to co-parent for whatever reason, they must operate in a spirit of forgiveness and also with the intention of keeping the kids as a priority. We never have to have a personal conversation. We never have to talk about what the weather was like. We never have to talk about
Mhm.
anything that's outside of the kids. But when
Mhm.
they're young, we have to communicate all the time.
Mhm.
If we're going to communicate all the time, then it needs to be at least kosher,
Mhm.
with respect. So I would
Mhm.
say always respect the other parent.
So my other question for you. So is there like a single dads group, like a cool dads group? How do you find support with other single fathers? And what does that support look like?
So I've joined a couple of groups on like Facebook and everything like that. But I really begin to get in connection with single fathers who are very close and local
Mhm.
after I was releasing the book. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes people, and the reason why I feel like this book is a movement is because I've heard from so many people that I actually knew, but never knew that their stories were very similar. And that's a testament to what I want the book to do.
Mhm.
Cause people to come out of their shell and really embrace freedom, and embrace their reality. So I've come into contact with several fathers who I didn't even know that they were
Do you feel
going.
liberated?
I do. I feel liberated because um I would have never known that some of the people who I've known of are experiencing or have experienced or are currently experiencing what I have experienced. My inbox when I first released it would be flooded of men like, listen,
Mhm.
no one knows, but I'm going through
Yeah.
this right now. And no one knows because I haven't changed my status on Facebook, but I'm going through a divorce right now, or I have full custody of my kids and this is what it looks like. And
Mhm.
people that, and these are not including the stranger, these are people who I know,
Mhm.
um, but had not felt the liberation to share.
Mhm.
So it really was rewarding to my liberation caused people to be like, you know what, I want to be involved in that. And many of those people actually came to the release as well.
Mhm. So you said you started a movement, and so I like that. And so with starting this movement, and the first step, when you have something great like this, is owning up to what happened to get you here.
Hmm.
Now that you are here, how do you continue to move forward? And so for single fathers who are watching us now, who've been in similar paths, because everybody's path is different, and they
Hmm.
are here now,
Hmm.
and they need to really understand the goal setting portion. Like, how do I set a goal now, for me and my kids? Because you got to set goals now,
Hmm.
because if you don't, you'll stunt the growth of your children. So
Hmm.
now, how do I set goals for me and my family? And then now, you're blessed to be financially able to do those things. Those fathers who's trying to figure out, how do I take care of my kids now? It's between me making sure that they have what they need for homeschooling or in the school, or going on a field trip, and then I got to pay bills, like all the additional stress. And
Hmm.
then what happens then if somebody gets sick and you got to get off your job to go and pick them up from school, like
Hmm.
the juggling act right there. So
Hmm.
for the father who is now coming, they've been where you've been, similar tracks, all these competing priorities now, got to move the family further. We
Right.
understand, about, you said, getting your tribe, and relying, on those people who you trust, but also your own mental space. Like,
Hmm.
what do you do? Like, because you, at some point, you're gonna need self care.
Hmm.
At some point, the father needs to be refueled. So,
Hmm.
what do you do to keep you refueled?
One thing I would say, and we talked about this a lot at the book release when we did a panel with single fathers, mental health is real,
Mhm.
and mental health is necessary to address.
Mhm.
I think everybody, I don't care if you're a father or not, everybody needs needs to experience therapy. Therapy was one thing that really got me through, to promote self-care and also to figure out what's most important, right? So um, the therapy gave me strategies to then build upon the parts of me that I did not think I could build
Mhm.
upon. So as a single father, when you are juggling like work life balance, children, finances, relationships, lack of finances, lack of employment. One of the things that you have to do is really sit down and figure out like what's most important and
Mhm.
prioritize what has to be done and what can wait. So
Mhm.
like my father, and I really every time I just look around, I thank God for the ability that He has given me to be blessed. When I was growing up, sometimes our hot water was off, and
Mhm.
my dad would like boil water on the stove so we could get dressed to go to school in the morning. Um, and he had to prioritize, but he had to prioritize with limited resources.
Wow.
And one thing I've learned, I know how to go to Ruth Chris, and I also know how to eat oodles and noodles,
Mhm.
if I feel like it. And the goal is that you prioritize. So sometimes we can't go out to eat,
Mhm.
and sometimes daddy's going to cook. Sometimes we can't go on that trip, but we'll make it up somewhere else. Um, because priorities are good for children as well. When you begin to prioritize what's most important, they will appreciate it more. And sometimes that vulnerability piece comes in. Daddy doesn't have it. I really would love to do this, but I don't have it. I would love to do this, but we can't do that.
Mhm.
Um, I would love to do that, but that's being vulnerable and just saying no, because they don't understand no, but they can understand daddy wanted to. And for those of you who are in that situation, just be vulnerable, be
Mhm.
honest. And sometimes that honesty um, will cause you to tap into parts of you that you don't want to tap into, because
Mhm.
that daddy doesn't have it, or daddy needs a moment, will tap into possibly the lack that you had when you were a child, and it re-triggers all of these things. And if you're not strong enough to deal with your stuff, um and I'll also say to fathers, one of the biggest things that you have to do is get healed from your childhood, because it
Mhm.
always starts there. If you don't get healed from your childhood, you will project. Um and it's one of the biggest biggest stumbling blocks when you try to parent over hurt.
Mhm. One of the chapters you wrote called "The Best Part of Fatherhood."
Mhm.
What's the best part of fatherhood?
So the best part of fatherhood for me is just to be the ability to actually have a hand in raising these two beautiful kids.
Mhm.
Um, and not just what social media sees, but the stuff that they don't see.
Mhm.
And I really take them as a gift, that God has entrusted me with a gift. And I treat them as such. So the best part is actually being able to raise them and grow with them. One of the parts I say in that chapter is like I'm not just raising them, but I'm growing with them. So
Mhm.
we're learning each other on a different level now. Um, they were born in a two-parent home, and now they are not in a two-parent home.
Mhm.
So we're learning how to live together differently.
Mhm.
And the best part is being able to grow with them and not miss a beat.
So I love that you call Aria your Rudy and Cliff, and I think Amina is Amina Bear. So
Mhm.
Amina let me hold her when she was young, when she was a baby. Child, she didn't let me hold her since then. So, which to me tells me they have their own separate individual relationships with you,
Mhm.
and there's a relationship they share, with you
Mhm.
together. So they're separate relationships. Tell me one thing that um, when both of your girls do to you that it makes you so proud to be their father.
Mhm. So, um, Aria will literally just make up a song and be like, "You're the best daddy ever," and she'll just start saying all these things, and it's unprovoked.
Mhm.
And she'll just be like, "Well, we'll be in the car." She's like, "You're amazing," and
Mhm.
her level of affirmation for me, um, just melts me. So she'll just like, you're amazing. I have the best daddy ever. So a lot of the clips, the raw footage that I'll post on social media, they were literally raw footage. And I'm like, all right, you gotta say that again because I missed it. And it was not coached. So she is like that words of affirmation to me. She's always reminding me that there's nobody better that can do it for her. So that's my, and I always say when my pictures of me and her, like I'm her Cliff and she's my Rudy. And Amina is just that type of person. Like she'll come when I need a hug and she'll like, oh, I want to cuddle up with daddy today. And just lay there. She may not say nothing, but she'll just lay there and like play in my hair or play in my beard, and then just her presence. So she'll just do that. So she's the quiet one. Aria is the one that's going to tell me how I'm her Superman. And Amina's just going to come and just love me and just call me all day long.
Oh, I love it. So you said this is a movement. I know our time is wrapping up, but like I could talk to you all day about this book. So you said this is a movement. What does the movement look like, and how can fathers join this movement?
So this movement looks like it's just not stopping at this book. I've already started thinking about creating a journal that goes along with this, so fathers can diary and maybe a 21-day type of thing. So I'm already working with my team to figure out what that looks like. But I want to give fathers their voice back, right? Like give them the ability to know that after a failed relationship, we are still present, we are still active, we are still engaged, and we are still committed. So I am working to create channels and pathways where fathers can just have a safe space to talk and have a safe space to share and be vulnerable. And also just really getting men to come to the realization that emotions matter. And this is going to cause them to really realize that emotions matter. And, we just can't show up for events, but we have to show up for life.
That's good.
So like that is like my goal, to like know that we don't just show up because it's my duty to show up to the recital, but I haven't done it. But I have to show up for their life. Like I am assigned to their life, not to an event. And that's what I want fathers to know, that we are committed to life, for life. Even if you can't stand your baby mother, even if you don't want to see her or you don't want to see him, when that child was born, you made a commitment to their life. And I want fathers to really take hold of that commitment.
So when I do my Father's Day show, I want you to bring your twin. I'm gonna bring my brother.
That's gonna be amazing. She would love to do that.
We do
she would love to do that.
Yeah,
and I'm already working on like a Father's Day thing. I want to do something different. I don't just want to do like a father-daughter dance. I want to do something really big for fathers and promote the book there too, as well.
So tell everybody where they can find you, where they can purchase the book.
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram at Eric Steven. You can Eric Steven 1. You can follow me there on Instagram, or you can follow me on Facebook at Eric S. Langston. We also have a community.
Is your Facebook public now too?
Facebook is public. I gotta check it, but I'm almost positive that's public because all my posts are public. But I just gotta check because I'm at my max for friends anyway. Yeah. So we also have a community page called The Diary of a Single Dad, where we're going to use that to post.
How'd you come up with that title?
The Diary of a Single Dad. So, like I said, originally it was a message, and like you said, it wasn't the timing. And then I was sitting at home. I was driving one day, and I just heard like The Diary of a Single Dad. Like,
do you write? Do you journal? Do you have a diary?
So I don't. So I write in my phone.
Okay.
So I don't have a book. Now, what I will do is I have a notebook that I use for work. Okay. And if I'm at my desk, I'll write in there. But typically, I'll just always jot in my phone in the note section or pages in my phone. And that's how most of my messages are also created. I'm driving and I'll hear like something. And a lot of times I'll get the title before I get the scripture because it typically just flows with me like when I'm by myself. So same with journaling. So I was like, Diary of a Single Dad. All right. What does that look like? And then really tapping into the fact that it's before I became a father. There's a diary that comes along with this, and there's like a book. But everybody needs to see your diary, and everybody, we keep diaries and we hide them. And if I kept my diary hidden, I could not help anybody. So I prayed that God gave me the courage to expose my diary. Because typically when you think of a diary, like, you can't read that. I don't want you to know that.
Right. Yeah. Why won't get a lock and key?
It's a lock and key. When I die, throw that thing away. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like if that's people say, like, if I die, go get my cell phone and throw it in the river, like all that kind of stuff. So I said the diary of a single dad is this concept of opening my life so that I can effectively raise my children.
I love it. I love it. Love it. So where can people join the community at?
So they can join the community on Facebook. It's called The Diary of a Single Dad. If you want to purchase the book, you can go to my website. It's www.eslenterprises.net. There are 2 links. You can get the book. It is on Amazon and it's on Barnes and Noble. You can get the digital copy or you can get the hard copy. So it's available digitally as well on Amazon and also Barnes and Noble.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been such an enlightening conversation tonight, and we're definitely going to have Eric back. Eric is going to start being my backup co-host, y'all, because Sis going to be on the road for a little bit. I'm going to have to have somebody who I know can carry the conversation, okay?
I would love to do it.
Yes, to keep the conversation going. So, Eric, of course, I have a special love for you. And this has been such a great conversation. And I'm super proud of you. It takes a lot of courage to do what we do. And it takes a lot of courage to own what you do. And so for you to open your diary for the world to see, to empower them. And that's what I love about this. It wasn't for selfish gain. It was for you to empower and to help other people. And I think that is admirable. And I'm super happy about your success. Looking forward to not only, the journal, but also to the t-shirts, the water bottles. Because, I can help you come up with a product line.
We got to talk about that merch.
Yeah, because you need some merch for this, okay?
You
need some merch for this because when you're going out to preach, you need a whole merch table because there are so many fathers that need to know that, there's someone who they can connect with and have a support system. And that is so important, given our political climate, given, the way that the world is in disarray right now. To be able to have a solid place for support is so important.
Yep.
So, I'm super proud of you. And however I can support you, I'm happy to do that. Happy to share my my platform so that you can promote. But I definitely want to have you and your sister back. We do a Father's Day special, me and my brother and you and your sister. I think
that's going to be dope. She would love to do that. And we look nothing alike. We look absolutely nothing alike.
Yes. And so for everybody here, listen, make sure you go and follow Eric. Make sure you share this video. Make sure you encourage people to talk about the hard thing. And that's what this book does. Even though it's geared towards single dads, I'm not a dad, but I can still relate to some of the things that were in the book. And that's the blessing in all of that. When you can relate to the content, and it may not be you directly affected, but somebody is, and is giving you the wisdom and the tool set to be able to share with them. So make sure you get your copy. Diary of a Single Dad. Eric, tell them again, where can they get it?
eslenterprises.net.
And you can follow Eric on all forms of social media. Make sure you like. We do a marketing clip, so we'll be sending out clips so that we can continue to promote Eric's book. We'll include it in our next newsletter as well. Make sure you go and follow Eric and, connect with him about his book. And if you have not got your CEO Lady Bonnet, let me tell you something. The pre-orders, y'all have done good by your girl, okay?
You have bonnets for the babies?
Yes, they're one size fit all, and they stretch.
Oh, they stretch, okay, because I always need a bonnet around here.
No, they satin too, baby.
Okay, I need a bonnet.
I got them in money teal and CEO blue. The money teal is the one that's flying, okay? So if you haven't got your bonnet, make sure you get your bonnet. I have lots of great things that are happening. A lot of great opportunities, things, and I'm so grateful and so blessed that I'm happy with the work that I get a chance to do, and I'm happy
Mhm.
with the platform that God has blessed me to create. So stay connected with me as well. Make sure you follow me. Everything is under Bridgett Battles. If you are on LinkedIn and you are a professional, connect with me on LinkedIn, because I have some amazing things happening on LinkedIn for my professionals, some great opportunities, some great networking, some great meetups, and things that will help expand your brand. Facebook and Instagram, and I'm gonna say this, we're gonna go. And I think, Eric, you can relate. When you start becoming an author and a creative, there's different content for different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Because the things I share on LinkedIn, I don't
Absolutely.
necessarily share them on Facebook. The things
Because
I
it's a different
share,
audience.
yeah, it's a different audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're ready to level up, in your professional life, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So until the next episode of Coffee with Bridgett, where's your cup, Eric?
I got it.
Oh, come on here with your name on your cup. Everybody have a good evening. Cheers.
Cheers.
Take care.